Hello and welcome to what is going to be an absolutely marvellous interview with our special guest, Dr. Craig Walton from Advanced UK. And yes, he's in the college. We've got someone in chat already. How do? So how are you, sir? How are you doing this week?
I'm doing fantastic. It's been a really exciting last few days for Advance and hopefully for the country. Yeah, I'm riding high.
Yep, excellent. Basically, that probably will end up talking more about the conference than anything I expect today. But I mean, the first thing I have to ask, because I ask everyone, who is Dr. Craig Walton?
Oh, that's a good question. Yeah, so I grew up in Scotland. I'm Scottish, and I have one English parent, one Scottish parent. So I consider myself British first and foremost. Grew up in a small fishing town in Fife, and then my passion before becoming more politically involved recently, for reasons we can talk about, was just science. So that's why I'm a doctor. I'm a geologist by training. Did an earth science degree in St Andrews, and then I've been working at Cambridge University for about 5 years or so now. And my research was to do with things like how did the Earth form and can we find aliens and stuff like that. And so that was what my life was meant to be about, was just nerding out on things like that. And then it's become difficult. I'd say the environment in Britain, for many reasons, but including at the universities, I find challenging. And so I felt compelled to get involved in Advance, drew my attention. So I'm now involved with Advance in the college, which sort of suits me, right? Because I work at Trinity College, in the university system. And now I'm in a political college where we're researching ideas, debating them, much in the same way that you would for a scientific project, and drafting action plans to deal with it. So that's basically my journey. Is even though it's depressing what's happening in Britain and feeling that I need to do this, actually the process of working in Advance is fascinating, because these are some of the most complex problems in the world. So I hadn't appreciated that into it, just how much of it would be a bit like doing science in a way.
Well, it's funny you mention aliens, because that's how this channel started. I'm absolutely fascinated.
No way.
I have got a channel set up, but I've only put one video out because obviously this takes my time. But that's UFOs and extraterrestrials, because it fascinates me.
Awesome.
And then I realised, like, when I was looking you up and that, and I was like, these books, are they his? And then you mentioned it, and then I saw on your X that you actually wrote books. And I was like, my word, it's my brother from another mother. I was just like, I'm going to be in my element with you. It's going to be brilliant.
Yeah.
But I mean, were you ever associated with any other political party before Advance, or?
No, I wasn't. And I suppose there's several reasons. One of which is that I was never very interested in politics until recently, where it sort of was in my face. People were forcing politics into my life, even if I didn't want it to be. So I just wasn't very interested in it in general. I was just focused on my science. And I would say that it's only recently where I felt compelled to be involved. So that's probably why. Obviously, I've voted before, but I've voted for all sorts of different things. But then when I see the challenges we have now, it was only really Advance that seemed half serious about addressing it. It just seems obvious to me from following the drama online that almost everyone else is just chasing votes. And from my experience, I mean, we can talk about it, but my experience of Advance so far has been that the people, I mean, getting involved in Advance at the stage we're at currently, there's no power, there's no money. I'm totally unpaid, right? It's just, there's only risk from doing this to my whatever else I want to do, my reputation, potentially. And so it feels really genuine. And I guess that's what drew me to the project. And I joined them. I mean, it was it's a very democratic and open thing. Honestly, almost anyone can get involved at a high level. I didn't have any connections or anything. I just joined one of the X spaces that Advance hosts. I don't know if you've seen these. As just a listener. And then I asked a question and was like, oh, and is there a way to get involved? I'm at university. They said yes. And then I applied and went through, a series of interviews just pitching what I could offer. And so that's how it came about. So yeah, I've no political background at all in any way until now. Yeah.
Snap. Basically, it got that bad. I actually, without even realizing, I was like, I'm looking into a lot of stuff here that's political. So maybe the same things that have sort of triggered me and triggered many others. But I mean, but you're a member of the actual college. I mean, what responsibilities do you have for that? I mean, sounds very official, the college.
Yeah, I mean, it's a funny one. The responsibilities there, I suppose they are significant. We're trying to draft the ideas which will lead us forwards, right? So it's, again, I can describe the structure of the college to you if you want, because it people
Yes,
maybe
please,
wonder about
please,
it.
yeah.
But it's very open, where you go for the interview and you're like, okay, these are the things I know about, these are my expertise, this is what I'm interested in. But then once they're in the college, anybody can join any working group. So it's not like, I'm an earth scientist by trade, but it's not like I can only be on the energy policy, because I know something about climate change or something.
Yeah.
You can volunteer for any group and be in as many as you want, and then you just have to do the work and submit your ideas and
Yeah.
write it up. So we have a process where people will write up in a standard document. Everybody gets the same document. You fill it in, and then we meet and discuss the ideas, and everybody gets the chance to hear each other. And we're very respectful, I would say, in trying to integrate everything as much as we can. And so I volunteered for things like immigration, the culture, policy, which we can discuss, and wasn't part of it was announced by Ben at the event on the 7th, and also energy and education, because I'm at the universities, but so all the people that you saw speaking, some of them are college members, like Kathy. She's on some of these working groups, and then that's really it. You volunteer, you put your own time in, as much content as you can generate, and then we meet in these long-winded meetings and try and boil it down into something
Yeah.
what everybody would support. That's how it works.
Wow. I did hear, I'm not, hopefully it's not going to be a sore subject with you, but I saw maybe somewhere between you and Paul Burgess, was it? There was a bit of a tete-a-tete, shall we say? He came across as like a nice guy, but he seemed a bit, even people mentioned in the chat, as if like he's throwing his toys out the pram because he's not getting his own way, or they weren't listening. So, I mean, what was your take on that? Or would you rather not say?
I should say something about it. Look, I'm very sad about that, and I think everybody in the college is. Ultimately, it's the case that he resigned. He wasn't fired.
Yes.
And we all, and I know what he's saying online, but we tried very hard to incorporate everything he wanted to work on. And honestly, I think there was, you're never going to have utter agreement on everything. That's the thing, in any group project from high school to politics, there's never going to be complete consensus. But within Advance, there was pretty much agreement on everything. We can talk about the ideas if you want, like in terms of ending net zero, not thinking that climate change is this massive emergency that's going to destroy the world. On all these fundamental things, there was total agreement. And as far as I can tell, the reasons that he gave and for stepping down came down to things that I consider not to be that important. I think we were listening to him, and I tried personally very hard to incorporate everything that he wanted to do.
Yep.
And so I'm disappointed by that he chose to step down. And I don't fully understand it. I don't fully get it. But that's it. We tried to incorporate everything, and regardless, and I do think it's important to focus that we're trying to save the country, right? This is important stuff. And we did have influence, and so to throw that away, I don't understand it. It's like everybody needs to get involved and just try their best. There was no censorship at all. Absolutely not. The fundamental things that Paul speaks about and has done for years, climate change is not ending the world. We need to end net zero. That is like a cornerstone of what's going to be the policy. And so, I think we can deliver on the things he cares about. That's all we can do, really.
Yeah, because I even said to Paul, like, before he said anything, I said, from what I researched, I was like, but the UK is like between 1.2, 1.3%, depending where you look, of the world's carbon emissions. So if we literally got wiped off the map, what happens? Well, apparently China goes up by 2 to 5% every single year. So what we're doing with everything, everything we're doing with like wind farms, solar panels, which are made with fossil fuels in China, electric vehicles, it all just seems such like Ed Miliband and 500 million being wasted. It literally, I think everything to do with that is a waste. What, do you agree, disagree?
Oh no, I completely agree. So it's a funny one. I'll give you my stock speech on this stuff, because I'm an earth scientist, right? That is my PhD. So I've been taught by the climate scientists who contribute to the IPCC and all this. I know quite a lot about it, I would think. And there's such a gigantic gap between what's in the scientific literature and what would be discussed in a university and what the politics is. There's no resemblance at all, right? So Ed Miliband and most politicians' stance on it, where it's like the world is ending, which is net zero tomorrow, and the way in which they say what the scientists are saying and what the scientists actually say, there's just no resemblance. There's a variety of opinions in science about the degree to which it's happening and how bad it is and the consequences and all this stuff, and that's a valid thing to debate. But what you cannot, what I always tell people is, what does not exist in the scientific literature is a single paper saying that there's an existential threat to civilization from climate change. It doesn't exist. There's no papers saying that's been proven or even really indicated by anyone. You get laughed out of the room if that's your opinion, and yet that's what the politicians say. So, in my opinion, the thing that they use to justify this extreme behavior, which is so damaging to our economy and to our standard of living, has no basis in science. And that's kind of the fundamental point that I think, the advance needs to root itself in, which is that there's no need to say that all scientists are just crazy. You can have a disagreement with them if you want. You can have your own opinion. That's totally fine. Yeah. But what no scientists think is that the world is ending, and therefore we can reject what almost all politicians are saying. And I think fundamentally, if you don't mind me just adding, that's maybe part of where Paul wanted advance to go, was in taking a scientific stand. And I just don't know, in my opinion anyway, I don't know what we'll agree in the end, but in my opinion, it's not really the role of politicians to decide what people should be thinking. It's just our role to decide what to do, but what they want us to do, to enact the political will and do the best thing for their standard of living. And in that case, there's no evidence the world is ending from any scientist. So that's all we need to say. Moving on, don't need net zero.
Yep, I would have had a field day in the Industrial Revolution, wouldn't they? Like, oh, the planet. And here we are all these years later. It's fine, mate. It's fine. But, the world's been here like billions of years. It knows what it's doing. If it's warmer here, it's going to be cooler here. If it's going to cool down here, it'll warmer. I mean,
we probably don't want to waste too much time on climate change, but at the end of the day, the whole idea that it's getting a bit warmer is this catastrophe is wild, because 10 times more people die from cold than heat. Warming the planet, or the fact that the planet is warming, regardless of how you think it's happening or not, by a degree or so, will save lives. It will save lives. So just the entire framework, people just say warming bad, doesn't really make sense. If you're freezing cold, you can't grow things and you die. So it's much better off. We are lucky to live in a time when it's warmer. You go back a few hundred years, and the Little Ice Age was tough.
Basically, yeah. I was talking with Guardian Mose. I'm sure you spoke to him. Yes, I think it was at the he mentioned something to do with you working with the youth or the younger people. Is that right?
Yeah.
Can you elaborate on that for me?
Of course. Yeah. So it's incredibly important in politics that you don't just have old people deciding everything for a future they won't inherit. Ultimately, in 50 years' time, almost all politicians won't be the ones dealing with the consequences. So you need to give the youth a voice, really early on, get them politically engaged and have their ideas shaping policy. And so that's we've seen in America that has had a big impact on politics with successful youth movements. And we need the same thing here. So what we're starting is this thing, I'm leading it, called Advance UK Future. And the idea is basically just to get together politically interested younger people, sort of 30 and below, get them to meet each other, show them the draft policies and have them debate it and feed their ideas back, sort of carve out what do young people think about this, and then also get them into media and give them a pipeline into getting into politics. And also to defend their interests within my community, because I've felt very isolated in recent years by the culture in places that most young people would be, like university. It's very one-sided. We've just seen Bangor University or something trying to ban reform people. I mean, that's insane. Happening
in Wales, wasn't it? Yeah,
it needs to be resisted completely.
Yeah, freedom of speech, but you're not allowed to speak here. Okay.
Yeah, they said, we believe in freedom of speech if you agree with us.
Basically, yeah. Also, as we're talking about the youth, I mean, where do you stand? I mean, it makes me cringe when I think about education. It seems to be more indoctrination with all, like, they're choosing the political narrative in schools, and they got the woke agenda. And I mean, the kids, surely it's more indoctrination than education as it stands, surely. From what you see in here, maybe I'm wrong.
Well, yeah. So it's a while since I was at high school, but I
snap.
people who have children at high school, or who were at high school not too long ago, working at university, you meet people who, students and so on. And it is shocking how political so many schools have become. To the point where when I first heard about it a few years ago, I sort of dismissed it. You think, oh, you must be exaggerating. But no, like, woke ideas really have penetrated deeply. And it's because the whole system by which you credential people, like teachers, are themselves ideologically controlled. And now that is happening to the universities, unfortunately, where the percentage of people who lean one way politically has grown and grown and grown. And now they're starting to entrench their ideas as the ideas of the university itself. And that's probably one of the big things that's pushed me into thinking that something needs to change, not just because everything's wrong in the country, but that I can't do my own job properly because people are coming in and constantly making it about politics, and I can't stand that.
Yeah.
So and it does need to change, and you're right, it is happening, unfortunately.
Well, we have to get it to Saturday the 7th, don't we? Really, the conference. I mean, was there one thing in particular, or maybe two, that really stuck out and sort of hit home with you that you feel like, yes, here we go?
You mean the policies that were announced at the conference?
Sorry, yeah, the policies. Yeah, anything that hit home, like, here we go.
Yeah, well, it's a fun one because so both the immigration and culture policies I did help write. But I didn't know until the day exactly what would be, put out in the speech. But there were two big ones that there was this idea of the green list. I'd be interested to hear your thoughts on it, where basically, in order to simplify the sort of day one immigration crackdown and get things under control, you're going to end immigration from 95% of the world and only have sort of continuing visa processing for a select, limited list of countries. That was my suggestion. So I was pleased to see that one out there, and I saw some good reactions to it online. I think it's one of these things where you simplify everything, basically end mass migration instantly with that reform. Yep. And then you can introduce caveats and, start to expand things again with exceptional talent visas for a small number of people who are like, I don't know, Elon Musk, right? I don't know what you think of him, but he's certainly done a good job in America with SpaceX. It's an important geostrategic company for America. And you wouldn't want your immigration policy to prevent you from obtaining someone like that. But those people are limited in the hundreds or maybe thousands of people. So that's kind of the big one for me, is that policy, I think, simplifies things, and it sort of wraps everything up into one, where it's like, okay, we don't want people coming in who are from countries that have nothing to do with us. And there should be effectively zero unless there's an exceptional reason otherwise. And ultimately, I think morally it's the right thing. Why should we be draining people who might be skilled from all these other countries, and then they remain impoverished and insecure and unstable and demanding aid from us? I mean, the whole thing feels wrong. We should really be self-sufficient, and that's the model for the future, is not Western countries just absorbing everybody, but every country standing on their own and being self-sufficient. So I like that spoke to me, the green list. I like that was out there. And also I like that we've moved the Overton window on discussing sectarianism and incompatible religious beliefs. So I've had to do a lot living in Britain with people living in sectarian communities where they don't speak English. Their women are completely veiled, things like this, and it's not healthy for our society. It's not what is British, and I'm glad that was called out and suggestions were made, for example, to ban the burqa. I think that is. I mean, it's all across Europe, and Britain's way behind on this. That people are bringing in bans on this stuff, and yeah, I think that's really important, that we are going to be the only party to be tackling that stuff at all, and so I'm really glad that that's in there. I don't know what you think.
Well, I think the party's doing that because it's the only party that is Islamophobic. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, well, I reject the term entirely, but there we are.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, I think it's ridiculous. I mean, I've seen the Muslims are up in arms over the Islamophobia thing and all the blasphemy law that's come in and all that. They're like up in arms. But I've never understood that. I mean, I've got a Quran, I read it. I'm trying to learn more about Islam, and I've even had one of my X accounts deleted because I put up Sahih al-Bukhari 5134 that clearly states Aisha narrates, so her voice, she's held in very high regard, saying that the Prophet Muhammad married me when I was 6, consummated the marriage with me when I was 9. So I literally put that up as well and said, like, at what part in life would this ever be deemed to be the wish of God?
Yeah.
And it
Yeah.
gone. They took my whole account. I'm like, hang on a minute, I'm trying to spread a word here, and it's their texts, and it was there. It's evidence. I did query it. They said no, but for the oppression of women, and my missus loves doing her hair, and if we're going out, it's like, oh, I'll put a bit of lippy on or something. She's not major on lipstick, but that's what women like. So to have that oppressed because of certain religion, like you say, I think it doesn't fit with me either. So that's what I'm saying. And the fact that
Yeah.
a green list and that maybe will include sort of Islamic states, those people hate us. They are coming here to indoctrinate us and probably to do some rather nasty illegal actions. So I mean, that definitely stuck out to me. I mean, do you understand Islam, and have you learned about it? And is that why you're, because I do hear people say it and I'm like, what do you know? And they're like, well, nothing, just what I hear other people say. Do you know what I mean? So I'm a bit like,
No, it's okay. I'm interested to hear your perspective in more detail. But I mean, it's not so much learning about it as experiencing it, right? So as a scientist, I like to root my opinions in what I've observed to be true empirically in the world.
Yeah.
And I've lived in areas which were completely dominated by what I would call sectarian Islamic communities, where they don't mix and they have these behaviors which are completely different to anything you would ever see in Britain. And I just found it, I couldn't live there. You know, it was life ruining, and it completely segregated society in a way that I thought is unacceptable. And then you can point to things like the gangs that emerged and some issues of, you know, oppressing women, as you say. And yeah, I think just empirically, it's not good. It's not good. So what I've experienced in my own life and seen, and I think the data backs it up, is that we need to take a stand against it. But you're right; it's probably a good thing to become more educated about the belief system. I mean, I have talked to lots of Muslims about it, and I'm just always shocked at the number of them that will defend things which seem incredibly extreme, like,
yeah,
for example, child marriage. You know, because it is something that Muhammad did essentially. They will. So many people, just at normal high schools in Britain, if they're Muslim, will defend that. And so I think there's a real problem there, you know. And I don't really want to be going into other countries and telling them what to do or say or think. It's really up to them. But it's also up
yeah.
to us what we do and say and think. And it seems to me that it's wrong. But that's my opinion.
But we seem to be a country that sort of bows down and allows certain things. You're like, well, hang on, no, we're supposed to be a proud Christian country.
Precisely.
And you're saying, oh, yeah, but we don't want to do that. I mean, we can't be far away from them cancelling Christmas, surely, because it's going to upset like 6% of the population.
Well, no, you're right. I mean, but we already see it, unfortunately, because in many Christmas markets, the Christian aspect of it is stripped away. So in Cambridge Christmas market this year, and the lights in the city, it had nothing to do with Christmas and Christianity or Jesus or anything. It was hot air balloon lights. That's what the lights were. Hot
Yeah.
air balloons. What have they got to do with Christmas? Nothing. So they are changing the culture under our feet to make it just a winter festival that doesn't offend anyone. You're right. That is happening, and I think that's terrible. Absolutely terrible and unacceptable. So we cannot have our own culture subverted to people who've just arrived and have no interest in our culture. We can't have that at all. Yeah.
Yeah, I was impressed with the conference when it said like you will not be swearing on the Quran. It's the Bible or something neutral for an oath. And I thought, wow, that's genius. Because like no one, I wouldn't have thought of that actually. Like, oh, what, they actually get to swear on the Quran? I mean, that should never be allowed. The fact that you know it's going to go downhill surely when you allow a Sharia court in 1989. That was the first one. Well, you know they're going to want more because they've been given one, so they've been given more. That's our downfall. I think, like bending over to sort of please everyone, but then you realise then they're not. They're actually pleasing everyone who's not British.
Yeah, and I think it's deeper than that, because I think you're asking me, you know, how much do I know about Islam? And I think lots of people who don't know much about it make the mistake of assuming that it's a personal faith that has no political implications. But actually, in many cases, Islam is a full political philosophy and a way to run a country with implications for
Yes.
taxes and laws and all of this. And so obviously, if you're loyal to that and not to British law, you have a fundamental conflict in your incentives, your priorities, and your willingness to go along with the rest of society and respect British rule of law, which is why you have Sharia courts and all this. So if you're swearing on a book which is instructing you to run society in a certain way, you've broken away from the whole way in which the country is run. And if you want to live in that way, feel free to live in a country where that is how it works, but it can't work here. It's just at odds with how we run things. So I think that's really it's not because we have some irrational disdain for things that aren't traditionally British. There's actually a practical and moral conflict with how we run the country, and that's the real issue with it. Yeah, so you should be willing to swear on the Bible or nothing, but not a religious text which is telling you to do something contrary to how our laws work.
Yep. I mean, it clearly states, us as Christians and Jews, we are the worst of creatures, and they're to behead us where we stand. You're like, well, hang on a minute, what?
Well, we've had so many wars over religion through the years, and it's naive to think that somehow that magically stopped, the capacity for that to happen stopped a few years ago by magic. It didn't, unfortunately. We still have to remain sane about this stuff.
Yeah, I do like the fact that people go around saying, oh yeah, that's why I'm an atheist, because God's this and God that, and I'm like, hang on. No, anything and everything on this planet is the action of man. It's our actions that's doing this. We choose to do whatever. You can't then turn around and blame God. Do you know what I mean? It just seems a bit stupid in my eyes. But
I mean, cards on the table. Sorry, I don't want to interrupt, but just cards on the table. Right. I was raised a Christian, but I am an atheist. But I feel very comfortable within Advance and with their focus on Christianity, because I understand that it is the foundation of the way Britain is and everything I like about it. And so I think anybody who wants Britain to remain a free and prosperous country needs to understand the importance of Christianity, and not give that away, even if you aren't a practicing Christian. I think that Advance standing up for Christianity is vitally important, because it's given us so much, and if we lose it, we'll lose basically everything, unfortunately.
Yeah,
so basically. That's kind of
I mean, I've always been an atheist myself. You can see I've got my cross on now, and people comment this and that, but I had to have a change of heart, because obviously when I had a heart attack, I was dead for over 3 minutes. Wow. And I won't go into like where my brain went or whatever, because those near-death experience things, a lot of those stories go over my head. I think they're just full of it. But it was like I was talking to myself. It was the weirdest thing. But that changed me, and I was like, do you know what? Maybe I need to look into this. And it was strange, because beforehand, I actually had a dream. Oh, you've got a cat. I actually had a dream that I went into a hospital and I was looking for myself, and I went to the morgue, and they were like, no, you're not ready. You're not in it yet. And I'm like, what are you on about? They're like, no, you're just up there. You're not in the morgue. I was like, oh, all right, because it does seem a bit cold down here. So I left. And then I was sat watching Russell Brand, funny enough. And I was like, well, this is all getting a bit weird. Like, I mean, if there's a sign, there's a sign. And this orb crossed right in front of my eyes. And I was like, this is weird. I'll tell you what, if this stuff is real, Russell Brand, the 1 million people messaging on his video, I'm going to put one message and that's it. And if he reads it out, then I'll believe. Oh, my word. He's only turned around and gone, oh, yeah, you're right there, Gandalf. Yeah, I'll see your message. I hope you're well, my friend. I'm good. I'm like, are you kidding me? And then literally 2 weeks later, I had my heart attack. Wow. So maybe I was thinking whatever, maybe God was like, you're nearly there, son. You can go back. But that's what changed me from being an atheist. But I'm not full-blown Christian. I don't spout this and that. I just genuinely believe there's something. Do you know what I mean? And to say I don't believe, I'll be lying. So, but I'm learning. Hence, I've got the Bible as well. I'm reading that as well as the Quran. So I genuinely feel there's more to it. And I think what Advance saying, like, to teach kids and whatever about Christianity, I think that it would help.
Well, I also just think that fundamentally humans are spiritual creatures. We need that in our lives. We can't just base everything on trying to derive rational rules from first principles, because actually that can lead you to insane things. Often I find that in conversations with people who I would say are leftists, not just leftists, but them in particular, is you make a point that's obvious, it's kind of just obvious, but they're always like, no, source, citation, which study has shown me that I shouldn't do this terrible thing. And if you don't just rely on a bit of spirituality and try and boil everything down to facts and figures, you end up doing terrible things and having no morality. So spirituality is very important. And the one that Britain has with Christianity is a fantastic one that's led to lots of awesome things. And so, yeah, we lose that at our peril. That's kind of my perspective.
Yeah, 100%. Right, let's change the subject to where would you? I mean, this is one of those things, because maybe I've missed the point, but with regards to illegal immigration, I have not seen, other than one photo that had one woman and a child, I've not seen any women or children. And people are saying like, oh, the illegal immigration problem is so bad, but most of the homeless are women illegal immigrants. And I'm like, what? Where? I've not seen any women or children. So where do you stand on illegal immigration? And do you feel that it is, for some reason, seems to be a lot who believe in the Islamic faith, young men?
Yeah, so I mean, I think it needs to end completely. I think there's no case that somebody should be able to just randomly throw themselves into the country and then be supported at taxpayer expense, regardless of the threat that they might pose. I mean, those two things that when we pay taxes, we're supposed to be funding good things in our society, not people who have taken it by force, essentially by throwing themselves into the country. And so I think that's just an abuse of the taxpayers. And never mind the fact that those people are coming from countries which have totally different cultures, and they may be violent or dangerous, and we have no idea who they are. So it needs to end, and you can't just allow empathy to be weaponized against you, where somebody is saying, I'm going to cut my arm off unless you give me all your money. Like, that's essentially what's going on here. It needs to end completely. And then you're right, the statistics show that it's almost all young men coming across who are going to be statistically the most violent, the most likely to do sexual assaults, all these things. Young men are always more at risk, regardless of where you're from, actually, for doing that kind of stuff. So that's definitely increasing the risk of those things happening in Britain. And then we have all the terrible evidence of it, with people being charged for crimes. And I don't see really any women and children. But the thing is, you can't give exceptions for that, unfortunately, because if you start giving a carve out where in order to get into the country, you need to bring a woman and a child with you, they'll just be used as the foot in the door, and it will lead to women and children being abused to break into Britain. So you just need to say no. In almost all cases like this, where somebody's trying to abuse your better nature, if you just say no, it ends. You just need to have a deterrent. And I get the policies. The policies, I mean, will be put on the website very shortly, and so people can dig through them, not just listen to them.
They are now. Yeah, I've downloaded them.
Oh, are they already? Do they just? Oh, great. Okay, they've just come up. That's awesome. Yeah. So we need to have a deterrent. So there's all sorts of things that need to happen, which I think should be in that list. Where if you're breaking into the country, your assets or your belongings will be seized and used to pay for your deportation or care while you're in a tented camp somewhere. That's a sort of Denmark style policy. We know it works. Obviously, you shouldn't be in a hotel. You should be in some kind of secure, low-grade facility until you're moved out. And the Britain needs to be willing to spend political capital to force countries to take illegal immigrants back, just like America has done. So you cancel trade relations, you cancel visas, and say, no, you are doing this. And so those are kind of the three pillars. No tolerance, don't allow people to be living in your hotels, putting people at risk, and use every mechanism you have to send them home.
Yeah. I've always thought, I've said it a few times in my live stream, but maybe I sound a bit naive to the whole situation. But I'm always saying, like, what you need to do is, like, they pick them up on the boats, they bring them in, so they follow the railings round, they get onto another boat, and they go straight back to France. And then France has to take them straight back to whatever border they crossed into their country, take them back to there. Then that country picks them up from there, takes them back. And it's literally domino. And they'll be like, I'm not going through that. Well, that might stop the problem. I mean, am I being naive? Is that too easy, or would there be ECR jumping in on us?
Well, they'll try, but that's why we need to reject their authority completely. Ben actually said exactly this in the launch speech, which is that if we stand up against this, it will force other countries to stand up against it, and the domino will fall over right to the borders of Europe. And so, because somewhere in the chain in Europe, because we had freedom of movement in particular, somebody somewhere stopped enforcing the border, that just affects everybody. But that's why so, it shouldn't affect us because we're an island. It should be, of all the countries that can enforce a border, it should be easiest for us. So we need to, and we're no longer even in the EU. So yeah, we need to take a stand and lead the way on this, as Britain has done so many times in the past. We need to be the world leaders.
Yep, 100%. Let's bring it back to our beautiful country, because I asked Paul Thorpe this as well. Our countryside, the British countryside, is it too white?
Well, yeah, I think it's insane to hear people talking about like such openly racist statements. But so much of modern leftist politics is just pure racism, where they talk about the ethnic composition in moral terms. So it'd be better if it was more diverse. That means they think it's better if you have fewer white people as a percentage of the population. It's disgusting. It's completely evil. No, white British people are native to this country, and it's actually my opinion that they must remain the majority. I think that if you have a native people that have developed in a country, it's vital in a democracy that they remain the majority, so that they can continue to maintain the country culturally in alignment with whatever they want it to be. It's just obvious, and I hold that for any country. And in England, it should be English people. That's an ethnic group that's native to England, and in Scotland, it should be Scottish people as the majority. So we need to take a stand on that. That's not racist, actually. That's just defending a native population, and leftists understand that when it comes to Aboriginal Australians, it's not great for them that they're no longer the majority in their country. That's just how things have gone, and so you need to accept that these things. If you are that group, you got to stand up for your own interests, and we need to do the same here.
Definitely, yeah. I've never seen anyone tweeting from Africa saying, "Oh, my country, it's just too black." Do you know what I mean? It's just ridiculous. But also, like with everything that happened in London, actually, like more like what you personally feel. I was actually, I was ripping. Well, I wasn't literally ripping my hair out. It took a while to grow it, but the protesting, and that made you smile, didn't it? All that protesting, like the pro-Palestine, which is pro-Hamas, pro-Islamic ideology, and they were doing it so often. I mean, it was blatant Jew hatred. And then everyone just stood back and was like, yeah, right, we're not going to say anything. We can't do anything. And what we do, yeah, if you want to do it every weekend, do it. I mean, did that not shock you at really how bad our society must be?
Of course. I mean, that's another thing that got me feeling like I need to get involved in politics and stop this, is that unfortunately, if people come here in large numbers at all, but especially if they don't integrate or assimilate and they have their own ideas, those ideas then become what the country is about. And the reason that nothing happened there is because there was such a huge number of people that it's politically difficult, for any government to actually do anything about it. So there's no consensus in Britain anymore about what we care about. And so many of these people have loyalties or interests that lie abroad, that foreign conflicts are now the topic of the day in Britain in the way that they never would have been before. And people are having these fights between ideologies and races that just have nothing to do with us. And so it did shock me. I disagree with basically everything they were standing for. So that's one thing. I completely detest Hamas in every respect. And the fact that so many of them supported it was terrifying. But the fact that any foreign conflict is playing out on our streets is wrong. And that is a result of the fact that these people are more interested in what's happening abroad than in Britain. They're not actually really loyal to Britain. So it's a total failure of the last 30 years of immigration policy.
Yeah. What do you think about Nick Buckley being the Gaunton and Denton candidate? I mean, I was actually surprised. I've never heard of the man, and there's not much he hasn't done. I mean, I've got a lot of respect for him. I don't even know him, and hopefully one day we'll get him on. But I mean, I was quite shocked and surprised at how much of a strong candidate he would be. But do you think people might even hold, regardless of how good he is and the charity work he's done, do you think they might hold it against him because he's a part of Advance UK, or do you think that might help him?
You mean in the election? Like the voters,
yeah,
you mean?
I mean, if he was Reform, everybody be singing and dancing, but because he's Advance UK, Reform have actually been doing like call him misogynistic and
I know. Well, Reform behave dreadfully, unfortunately, with respect to they'll use. It appears that they will use any tactic They won't just debate people on the issues; they'll go after character, which is a very woke thing to do. So I hope that Advance stays away from that and just debates on the issues. That's what I try to do as best as possible. And so it's terrible that they're doing that to him. Absolutely terrible. He's a great guy. I've enjoyed working with him in the college. He's full of great ideas. His record is awesome. Similar to what Rupert Lowe did. Back in the day, he donated his salary, or it was his redundancy payment to a local charity, and he says he's going to do the same thing if he was elected. So it's a shame what Reform are doing, but I think it shows their true colors. Honestly, about the way they do politics, trying to smear people rather than just win on the ideas, which is what you should do. And it's great to see him standing. I mean, he might not be the most famous guy, but he did come third in the mayoral race a few years back. He got 50,000 votes, came third, and beat Reform, actually, at the time, as I remember it. So he's popular there because he's of the area. He's done a lot of work there. And I think it's important for Advance to be standing and demonstrating that we will contest these elections for the reason that Reform do not represent any of the things that we do. As far as I'm concerned, Reform aren't a viable option. And so this whole idea about splitting the vote is untrue because it's not a vote for the same thing, even remotely. Reform, as far as I can tell, we can discuss it. As far as I can tell, they're just containment. So they're just repackaging the same thing that failed before, i.e. the Tories, under a new name and getting people to vote for it. And you cannot put the same people into power who failed previously and expect a different result. And so that's why we need Advance, in my opinion. That's why I didn't join Reform.
Yep, 100%. Right, ladies and gents watching away, if you've got any questions for Dr. Craig Walton, get them in the live chat. You can super chat them or you can copy them, but put them in the live chat. I'm keeping an eye out. The man has a very busy schedule today. He's here for an hour. I can't believe that's 42 minutes gone already.
No, that went quite quick. That was quite quick.
But what I will do, as obviously you were good enough to come on and spare us some of your time, you have written some, would you call them novels or would you call them books? I think they're novels. It sounds better. But what books have you written and what are they about?
Oh, thanks very much. Yes, I'm also an author, more as a side thing, because that was my first passion, was writing. So I've written a science fiction trilogy and I'm about to publish the third book in an epic fantasy trilogy. The science fiction books are set a few hundred years in the future where we've cracked gene editing and are basically engineering these crazy ecosystems throughout the solar system. And it's about a terrible experiment going wrong and threatening all life in the solar system. So it's a bit of Expanse vibes going on there. And things like that. And there's lots of crazy alien things come about. And then the epic fantasy trilogy is called The Diaspora, and it's set in a series of interconnected worlds with these portals that were built thousands of years ago. Nobody knows who built them or how they work, and they sort of activate every 100 years or so, connecting different parts of the universe. And then armies can come through and trade can happen for a while, and then it shuts down again. So that's the setting for the, which is kind of fun. Yeah. So it's about the quest to understand, that built them. Yeah.
Oh my word! You never guess what I've got in my book.
What's in your book?
It's called the Unigate.
Oh, cool. Yeah. And
it's basically a universal gate, but they're all closed because people were using them to go through and destroy planets. So they all hidden. Gets discovered. That's weird that you said that. Blimey, yeah. I told you we're going to be brothers from different mothers or say. It's really weird.
I just need to grow my hair out a
bit. Yeah. But there are, ladies and gents, there are links down below, not only to Craig's X account, so you can go follow him, but to 2 of his books. So if you want to have a look and read what's going on regards what they call reviews, etc., then click on those 2 links. They'll take you there. Have a look. I like the front covers. They're my sort of things that I'd pick up and I'd have to read the back. So yeah, but I've got a lot of respect for you. I mean, it's taken me so long to do my book, 2 weeks to edit it, and for you to have so many books out, I'm like, wow, you're like a machine, man.
I write quickly. I decided.
I did.
I did genius, though, but sorry.
That's all right. Crack on.
I just saw some people have been asking questions. I can't see the full chat, but
yep, I've got. I'm hoping. Ian, has Advanced UK demanded that Reform publicly retract the letters that were sent out in Gorton and Denton?
The letters. So what were these? I mean, I saw there
I
was some
think,
kind of fake letter which they hadn't signed as being from them, right? I think certainly we were talking about it in the college and people were posting about it. I don't know if we've released a statement on it. Maybe we should, because yeah, that was bad from them.
yeah, definitely. Electrodoc, the air quality sensors dotted around the country. Are public scientists able to share their findings? For the claims of chemtrails believers, I realise chemtrails are logistically impossible.
Oh, I have no idea. I mean, I think there's lots of public databases for air quality sensors, right, where you can explore the data. That's not anything I've ever worked on, so I'm not the best person to ask. Sorry about that. But yeah, there's usually lots of public databases for this stuff, but I don't know.
Do you fall into the chemtrail category, or
I've not thought about it too much. I've not seen
no?
strong evidence supporting it.
No, that's basically it, and it comes down to evidence.
Okay.
I'm not too sure what to say. Will advance the speed restrictions not just 20 miles per hour, but 50 miles per hour on motorways?
So yeah, I'm not in a working group on like road policy. The one will exist because we have people in the college who are like behind the fair fuel movement and want to really make it much better for drivers. So yeah, I think speed restrictions are far too intense in many places. You know, it
Yep.
can be madness where you're crawling down the road in the middle of nowhere, and it's just crazy. So yeah, I would favor that personally. I can't speak to what the policy will be, but I can certainly pass that on to the rest of the college and say people worried about it because it's way too restrictive. And I drive myself, and I hate it when we have to crawl along for no reason. Hate that.
Yeah, like you do. Malkster, should English people be given an English identification that states that we are English?
Well, I mean, you are English, so I don't know if the state giving you an identification will make a huge difference. And I worry that it would be given to people who aren't. You know, it's in your blood. It's not a piece of paper. But like, it depends what the purpose of it would be. What would it mean and carry with it? You know, in the law. You know, what would that be used for? If there was to be an English Parliament or something, then maybe you would need that. But I'm not sure if I favour devolved parliaments massively. You know, we're either a United Kingdom or we're not. But what I do think is that in the census, huge priority should be given to estimating the number of ethnically English people in England, ethnically Scottish people in Scotland, and so on, and making sure that the policies are engineered around keeping them the majority. Because like England won't be English anymore if English people become the minority. That's why the country is named after the people.
Yep. But what about old Teflon Starmer though? Blimey, he's holding on, isn't he?
Well, it's an interesting one because he just doesn't seem to care, like if what he does is unpopular or how many people want him to resign. And he has this weird leverage where all the people around him are also really unpopular and would lose elections against them. So he can just threaten them that he'll hold an election and then they'll all be gone. So they kind of are just eking things out where, you know, they can delay elections as long as possible to stay in power and keep their salaries. But, you know, it's all going to end soon. I'd be surprised if Labour ever get elected ever again. I mean, and the same for the Tories.
Yeah.
You know, they're kind of both discredited. Depends how long people's memories are.
Yep, I think it's definitely
it's insane. It's
way.
crazy. How can he appoint Mandelson best friends with Epstein and then just palm it off and say, oh, well, he lied to me? Great. So you did no checks and you're just denying all responsibility as Prime Minister. You know, it's absolutely disgusting.
Yep. Is there any more questions? Because like I say, Craig only has an hour, so I'm more than happy to end it as and when, so the man has time to get to his next appointment. If that's all your...
Well, we can talk about what I'm going to do next, just because after this call, I'm literally going to go and be recording some videos detailing further policy, actually, in addition to what was announced at the event. That thing on the website must have just gone live because I had to go and make sure my video is in agreement with it. But yeah, that's what's next on the agenda. So there might be more for us to discuss next time if you want to do it again, because there's a lot more policy to come, a lot more.
I think it was the slides that were up in PDF.
Yep, great.
From Ben's chats with the people, which I've downloaded them. I need to have a good old look through them and have a read and everything like that. Is there anything you would like to mention that I haven't asked you about, or anything that you feel you want to promote other than your books?
Oh, well, that was nice of you to mention that. That was very kind. What else could we talk about? I mean, I'm curious actually to ask you a question. Like, what should Advance be focusing on in policy that we haven't been yet? What would be like a top thing from you that I can bring to the college and say we need to work on?
Blimey, I have no idea. Talk about put me on the hot spot.
Or somebody in the chat, as well.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of it, it's like the divide of people, like communities, etc., because they're not communities anymore. Like, I don't know anyone in my street. Do you know what I mean? It's like, what could we possibly do? I mean, is it because of the safety issues? I mean, I won't let my missus go anywhere alone. If she's not with like one of my sons or myself, then that's it. Do you know what I mean? She's not going out. So
I have a thought on that, because I think that's a great point. And also I can see a question coming up on the screen here about how long before we are where they want to be. We should try and answer both. But in terms of the community thing, community is something that you experience, right? It's like, as you say, I haven't met anybody from the community. So how would that happen? It would happen if you're interacting with them in local shops, but so much has moved online. So if you change the business environment where it's cost effective for people to be using local shops and for business owners to operate locally, that connects people again. So that needs to happen. And I also think that big cultural events used to connect people together, like Christmas, for example, but also Easter and other things. So what I would favor in government, if we get in, is really revitalizing those things hugely. I'm adding resources into them, financing towns and communities to host festivals and events, inviting local food in, and making it an event that people want to participate again and connects them together and people look forward to. So I think that those two things, where you make community, which is rooted in the economy, more effective for individual people and local businesses, and you just finance with taxes that currently are going to illegal immigrants and should be going to the culture, and these things that bind people together, like Christmas, Easter, and so on. I don't know if that would sound reasonable, but that's like my suggestion. But
I remember as a kid where I used to grow up, they used to have like a carnival and that, and everyone used to be there, and you'd see all the people in your street, and all the kids knew each other, and then because the kids know each other, the parents get to know each other.
Yeah, so we had a little festival in the town where I grew up, and everybody would come out and participate in sports events, and the parents would do silly things, and there'd be burgers, and it'd be fun. So many more things like that which connect people together would be great. That question about how long before Advance is where it wants to be, maybe 3 years when we win the general election. I mean, I think we're in decent shape because we're doing better than I thought we would be. I think that we're already moving the Overton window of what's being discussed. So we'll really just see if we can get to the point where we're appearing in polls and people are forced to discuss us on the news. That's when we are where we want to be, because from that position you can explode in popularity, just if you hit people's attention correctly. There are three calls.
The GB News thing's a bit weird, because I accidentally found out in a live stream, because I was looking something up and it come up that Nigel Farage owns over 500,000 shares in GB News, and I was like, well, that sort of answers why he's not.
I knew as soon as Advance was launched that anybody involved would be cancelled from GB News, because we're competing with Reform, and GB News is not GB News does great reporting on many things, and I like some of the people that work there. I watch it fairly often.
Yeah, I do.
Even though they're not going to report in Advance, but that's it's because it's not actually unbiased. It is a Reform media thing, and we're just going to need to build our own one. I don't really begrudge them that. Whatever, that's just how it goes.
I mean, I'm trying to build a hub here. Like, hopefully, I think. Let me just quickly, like this gentleman here. I enjoyed this interview, Wizard. You should invite each of the college members in for a chat. Well, funny enough, when I have people here like Paul Thorpe and yourself, I'm like, yes, if there's anyone else get hold of them, let them know that I'm available. If they want to come on and have a chat, happy days. So I'm hoping to bring all the people in. Do you know what I mean? And get give them.
No, Yeah, we're very keen to boost anybody who's interested in us in popularity. So like this interview, hopefully we can tweet it out and get you, some views on it from our side. And I can certainly suggest other people talk to you. And some people are busy, but they'll be keen. That we are keen to build these things. So hopefully you can interview more people. Some of them will definitely agree. And the only reason they wouldn't is because it's just flat out working on it. And I can see this comment here that there are 3 college members who haven't done a why I joined yet. Yeah, I can certainly mention to them. The guy, wasn't it Nick doing the interviews? Who was doing the interviews? Yeah, I mean, I did one a while back. I've forgotten all about it. I'll push that. They should all do one.
Yep, I am a fully paid up member for the first time ever in history with Advanced UK.
Wow. Oh, that's awesome.
I put my money where my mouth is.
See, that is what will save Britain, is if the people who feel completely left behind by politics finally see a reason to vote, because the silent majority will just swing an election instantly. So we need to give them what they need. I can see this question here: how can I get involved with Advance up here in Edinburgh? I mean, join Advance, and then get in touch with because it's quite easy to contact like the people within the party. Like me, you could just message me on Twitter. I will respond. And I can connect you if you're interested in like actually getting involved on the ground with like regional directors. That's all being rolled out and set up. Every week we're announcing new people. So there will be opportunities in Scotland. I'm just from outside Edinburgh. I'm from North Queensferry. There will be people, not me, but there'll be people standing there who are organizing the on the ground stuff. So just basically get in touch with people in the party, and then they will help you realize that. And that's the way to do it. Get in touch.
Yep, definitely. Samuel, so I hope that Advanced UK sets out a plan to refresh and renew our NHS and audit it and remove all waste and inefficiencies.
Yeah, I completely agree. So like it's interesting that a lot of the problems, the things that are going wrong with the country, will resolve by tackling just one of the issues, because they're all connected. So for example, ending illegal immigration and banning using the NHS to look after illegal immigrants, and indeed all migrants to the United Kingdom, if we're going to change it so that they have to be paying for private healthcare and not using stuff that the taxpayers are paying for, will immediately reduce the burden on the NHS and free up all those spaces for British people, cutting down the waiting lists, and I'll remove a lot of the waste, because a lot of the waste is just corruption and wasting these contracts on people that shouldn't even have access. Obviously, we do need to be reducing spending on the NHS and making it effective. Yep. The current system is crazy. We have one of the highest rates of death on waiting lists on earth. So I think one of the best things we could do, actually, in terms of forcing change, is just to have a more sensible conversation about the NHS and stop talking about it as if it's some holy, thing. It's full of problems, and we need to just get rid of this idea that it's revered and we can never criticize it. Nobody improves if you can't criticize them. So that's kind of my vision for it, but I agree.
Yep, happy days. Well, we've got up to 58 minutes. Look at that. How close is that for your hour? Hey, look at that.
Yeah, marvelous. No, we did great.
But Samuel, we do have video evidence, folks. Dr. Craig Walton did say, we can do it again sometime. So there we go. We got evidence. He can't get out of it. He will be back.
I'll definitely be back. Yeah,
but I mean, this was a different type of interview, because where you do something that's not really sort of, like I said before the interview, like you're up here, I'm down here in life. Do you know what I mean? I'm a bit like, ooh. So I really didn't know what to ask, how to ask it. I thought, I hope I'm well spoken. I hope I don't swear.
That's a great time. Terrible. I thought you asked really good questions, and it was a pleasure to be here and hear from everyone. I was going to say, Samuel, who asked the question, if you have NHS policy ideas, please get in contact with me or anyone else and let us know, because we're many people, ordinary people, write in and we incorporate that into the policies. So get in touch. Anybody can get in touch. Yep. Please do it.
There you go. You heard it from the man himself. That's how open Advanced UK is. The party of the future, without a doubt. So there we go, ladies and gents. He will be back for another interview. I shall book him in at some point at his convenience. So it will be done. So a massive thank you to all of you in chat who asked questions. Anything you want to say before I end the stream?
I'll just say thanks. And it's awesome to hear, you know, everybody's comments and for their support. You know, we're going to try and save the country. Let's try and do it.
That's it. Yep, we're all in it together. Happy days. So thank you very much, ladies and gents. It's been an absolute pleasure. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and don't forget the links for the books of Dr. Craig Walton are in the description, as is his X account. Say that when you haven't had 20 points as well. Blimey. But for now, ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much. And that is the Wizard's Words.
Awesome.